Waziri Edwin Duale, good morning.
Morning, and I'm good. And you guys?
Tuko salama kabisa.
Yes.
This is where we are. We are fixing the nation.
It's my first time.
Of course, it's your first time, but not going to be your last time. We are fixing the nation. We fix the nation together. We, the three of us, plus our guests, plus very many people who join us on Nation FM, on NTV, on Nation FM's social media platforms, on NTV's social media platforms, on the Nation digital platform, that's ntvkenya.co.ke. So we are 360. We are speaking to the entire world from right here.
That's great.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
We begin every conversation by welcoming our guest, and our good girl Jano, who, as you know, is back from sabbatical. What she was doing in those 8 years that she was on sabbatical, she was reading and looking at what other people have said before, and she brings us a quote every day. Today she has an interesting quote. I'm sure this one we'll all get it.
We will.
Because
I do that. I do a lot of quotes also.
You do a lot of quotes, eh?
On my Twitter.
Oh, very
Okay.
good.
We'll come back and ask you which your favorite one is in just a moment. But the person who said this is more known, actually, for the space that you currently occupy, formidable climate and environment activist who was a pioneer in many ways, a proudly Kenyan woman. And she said, without good governance, there can be no peace. Who said that?
I think that should be Ongari Maathai.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes, in one of the few
person
times.
I have a lot of respect for.
Yes, can you imagine, and who pioneered a lot of what you're now undertaking in your docket.
Yes.
And as I was saying earlier, it was she didn't just speak about climate action and environment. She also talked about governance and politics and policies. So hopefully we'll be able to get into that as well a little bit later on.
You promised to tell us when she said this.
It was
and
in
the context.
It was in 1992 at the Earth Summit in New York City.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, it was on the sidelines of that. She had an interview where she was really being asked about the growth of the Greenbelt movement. At that point, Greenbelt movement had already made a global mark. And so the journalist was asking her a little bit about how she moved from seedlings to this movement where 50,000 plus families were benefiting, but also because she had stood with mothers of of prisoners who'd been imprisoned for exercising their freedom of speech against the president at the time. So she was also being asked about her activism and whether she feels that that's something that she should be doing alongside her climate justice. It was a brilliant interview. I recommend everyone to watch it. I'll see whether we can share the link on one of the platforms, but yeah, that's when she said it.
Yes.
I'm sure you agree with those words.
I agree with, and I think you're 80 and then you should write a book. All the research you did.
Oh, right?
Yeah.
Bring us
I'm
all
about to start my second book.
Yeah. How, the first one, how is it being
It's
received?
still the best-selling book. I do know my book will be selling. I've sold so far about 10,230 copies.
When you speak to people who've bought it, if you have, what do they say? What's the one thing that they get from
One thing they say is that once they start, they can't drop the book. And I think myself and my editorial, the guy who did for me the editorial, did good that the book flows. That's one chapter makes you read the next chapter.
Next chapter.
It's
And
true.
the second thing, a number of foreigners, diplomats tell me is that now we have a glimpse of the Kenyan politics. So
A good insight. Speaking of like starting and you can't stop, when the comments on our YouTube start, they can't stop.
Yes.
And so many people had questions for you, Waziri.
I am ready to answer all of them.
Including, I want to start with a very easy one. Please ask Mr. Duale his take on Nairobi County disposing garbage outside Stima Plaza.
That was, I think, the lowest moment in terms of leadership of Nairobi County. But as a person in charge of the regulator of the environment, NEMA were there the first day. They issued a restoration order to the Nairobi County Secretary to remove that. You can't use the environment to sort out your any kind of disputes. And I think I was very happy last night when I watched Parliament. I think the failure on the 2 days was the police. They could have towed those trucks. They could have enforced the law. Enforcement of law and order is a mandate of the police. So I think Speaker Wetangula and Parliament were right in making sure that. But I think I spoke to the governor and it showed poor leadership. Yes, that is not how people should sort out, because it was not only KPLC. There were restaurants. There's a neighborhood there.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's a public road.
There.
I mean, it's a
But
place.
our part was enforcement as a regulator, and I directed NEMA that morning. They had a press conference and they did the restoration, and the next day they were ready to charge Nairobi County officials in court, because we have NEMA police. We give you a restoration order to remove, you don't do it, then we take you to court.
But are they going to charge them for what they did?
I think now the police, the IG, when
This
he
is
appears...
NEMA. I mean, there was a breach of the environment laws. What is NEMA going to do because of what was done? There was sewage spilling outside the building. There was garbage strewn on a road. What is NEMA going to do?
NEMA, has a procedure in law. The first thing they do is to give you a restoration order. I think it has 48 hours. If you don't do that, then they take you to court. So NEMA will do its part in terms of charging the Nairobi County Secretary. But I think the custodian of law and order, the person in charge, the IG, I think has something to tell the country. Because I expected him the same night to to tow those vehicles and ask Nairobi County officials to remove that garbage.
It's not once or twice that you'll find there's a burst sewer and that it stays on for long, or a sewer that's been directed into a waterway, into rivers and streams. What does NEMA do in these instances? Because we don't see action.
You see action, and I think I spoke to the media when the first few months when I became the Minister for Environment. The whole story of Nairobi River. The biggest culprits of Nairobi River are three different institutions, groups. The first one is Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company, Athi Water and Sewerage Company, because their old debilitated system passes in the middle of the river. Okay? So even cleaning Nairobi River is not an easy job. It's a tall order. And that's why the president thought fast, and all of us thought cleaning Nairobi River is easy. Now we have changed the whole thing and said we need to relocate the whole sewer system. So Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company and Athi River and Sewerage Company are discharging their affluent into Nairobi River. That's number one. Number two, there are 145 industries and factories and slaughterhouses that discharge their affluent. Instead of, as per law, having their own infrastructure where they can dispose of their affluent system from their factories, they found an easier route of discharging to Nairobi River. And they have restoration order. I think about 60% of them so far have complied, and they have put systems because we have closed their factories. The third group is the people who are along Nairobi River and are putting high-rise buildings, and they don't provide the facility to dispose of the affluent from the sewerage system. And what they do is they dig 20, 30 meters and then link it to the river. And then the last group, which we are now dealing with, and we have given Nairobi County 3 months, is the people who collect garbage. The people even who collect garbage, there are two types of people. There are people who collect garbage from our homes, okay? And we pay for. They're private garbage collectors and the Nairobi County garbage collectors. So we are saying there must be a traceability. When you collect the garbage from a house, for example, or your house, we must find out where
does it end up.
So some of them, they collect and they dump, half of it they dump on the highways. You have seen garbage trucks peeling garbage as they move. So the type of trucks that you use to collect garbage must not be the normal trucks that we see. Secondly, we must have a traceability. You are paying for this. Thirdly, Dandora must be reconfigured we must have, and I've just gazetted, the color code for garbage. Even when you walk to a supermarket, to a mall, for the organic, for the wet, for the dry, that you see in everywhere else in the world. So we are not doing very well. Kenyans are not doing very well in terms. No.
The culprits that you've mentioned, from number 1 to number 4, is government. Whether it's Athi Water Board, government. Nairobi Water Company, government.
Those are the only ones who are government. And then the rest are
the private individuals who are building. They are regulated by they are licensed and by the planning department of government. The collection of garbage and garbage management is government. The failure of this entire system is government.
I don't think so. I think, number one, I agree with you. We are the regulators. And we have even a police section. NEMA has police. And I can confirm to you that what was happening 6 months ago is not what's happening now. But we have a responsibility. What I'm saying is, a citizen, I think we have a responsibility and for all of us. And that's why the matters of environment, even the framers of our constitution, matters of environment have not been put even in articles. You'll find it in the preamble of the constitution, that it is the duty of everybody, citizens and government, to protect the environment and conservation for now and for future generation.
Yeah.
And you'll again find other articles.
There's a full article that deals with environment.
Yes.
42 of the
Yes.
Constitution.
Even the judiciary has a whole.
I have the right to a clean and safe environment.
Yes.
That means the responsibility is on you, government, to make sure that I enjoy my right to
Absolutely.
a clean and safe environment.
Absolutely.
If in Nairobi today, I'm sorry, Janet, I want to come in, but sometimes I just get peeved on this. In Nairobi today, let's just say somebody has left Kimana. My neighbor, Palsanka Raphael, lives Kimana in Loitoktok. He bought the matatu, he's coming to Nairobi. Okay? On the way, he buys mandizi to eat. He doesn't want to litter, so he carries the banana peel. He gets to the bus stop, and there's nowhere to dump that banana peel. That is already wronging him. He arrives in Nairobi, and there's no near, clean, safe public toilet. That is wronging him. Now, when you tell us, don't dump, why do you want me to take the garbage?
No. I mean.
When you tell us, don't kojo.
No. In fact, he doesn't carry. He doesn't carry from Kimana. The moment he eats the.
Let me
finish.
Palsanka is a responsible citizen.
Let me
I know him.
No. They don't even carry. They threw out of the window. At the moment he peels off and eats the piece. And that's why, going forward, we will even ask public transport vehicles to have bins at the door.
Why going forward? Why not today?
No. I mean, the regulations, listen to me. I mean, when I went there, and I'm sure you have seen me fighting, telling NEMA to fight noise pollution. People putting clubs in residential areas. When I went to that ministry, for strange reasons, and I think I need to tell Kenyans, the Environmental Management Act was passed in 1999. There were 11 or so about regulations to enforce, to be enacted by Parliament. And the role of regulations is the minister. So from all those ministers, nobody did that. So when I came in, about, I think, a month ago, we have now done the 11 regulations, from noise pollution to waste management to dumping of garbage, because you can't enforce if you don't have the law on your side. Even sand harvesting, I mean, regulations. I mean, if you Google, you'll find. I have another 7 with the Attorney General on even chemical hazards. You remember when vehicles carrying chemical hazards that overturned somewhere in Kikuyu, and the whole area was. So there was the absence of this law, and I think it was on the part of the leadership at the ministry then. I mean, I need to be very frank. So now that we have put how do you dispose of garbage? The regulations are there, and the penalties are there. Nobody, in that ministry felt of even gazetting the different codes of colors. Now that the people in the private homes who pay for garbage, the person providing you, who collects your garbage, must provide with you 3 different bags, so that when it goes to Dandora, we have where we can put the wet, where we can put the dry, so that it can be used. Okay. We must move from the linear to the circular way of doing it.
All right, Waziri, we have a lot to get through, and I know we don't have a lot of time.
We are not doing very well, but I think we will move. I'm saying we will move, and I might be I will be very unpopular in the long run, but I am ready to
take the heat.
To take the heat.
I also want to validate, I think where Latif is coming from is the element of being able to, as a citizen, not always have to carry the weight of a leadership that is supposed to ease the processes that are put in place. So I get where his peeve was coming from, and we'll come back to that, because I think it's very important to interrogate a lot of where people are coming from in terms of, if you're putting the onus on us, but still not necessarily giving us the rights to express ourselves, to access services, then it's a burden. But we'll come to that. I think it's very important.
But there's also a role for citizens.
We're not disputing that there's a role for citizens. So that's what I'm saying.
Government cannot be the only custodian of fixing all environmental issues. You've even seen in some parts of our country, somebody getting out of his home and throwing garbage to the road. If you go to the scriptures, the biblical and the Quranic teaching, it tells you cleanliness and conserving the environment is a religious duty. It's a moral duty. So as much as government must take its responsibility, I think we need to do a lot of civic education on the part of the citizens, that because the planet, the earth, belongs to all of us.
Yes, we need to talk about the 15 billion trees.
Yes.
We need to find time to do that.
Yes.
There's quite a number of questions here in terms of, how many have been planted so far, and where, specific details on workforce and funding and logistical plans. If you can just briefly capture for us, first of all, what was the anticipation of 15 billion trees?
The 15 billion tree growing. It's not planting.
Growing, yes.
Because you can plant and they die tomorrow. 15 billion tree growing is anchored on climate change. Climate change is real. Climate change is scientific. It's seen every day in every part of the world. For example, in our country, we have very recurrent droughts, we have floods, we have many things. So we must prepare the country, just like the way the whole world, on how to create adaptation mechanism for climate change. How do we do mitigation? So the 15 billion is as a result of climate change. 2 is to resolve our degraded land ecosystem in our country. And this has been worked very well in Ethiopia. If you go to Ethiopia, there's something they call the Ethiopia Green Legacy, where in, I think, 7 years, Prime Minister Abiy started a program, and they did 32 billion trees. For us, we have so far done, since January 2023, to date, we have done 754 million trees.
Since when?
Since 1st of January 2023.
Right.
Okay? And annually, we're supposed to do 1.5 billion, so that in 10 years, we do 15 billion. It's a very ambitious program, but it's a very, very important environmental and climate change program. It's going to change.
Where are these 750 million that have been planted?
Across the country, and I'm coming to that. The public sector have done 531 million. The non-state actors, the civil society, people in environmental space, banks have done, and all others have done, and I think 214 million. So in total, we have done 754. You know, if you add, I think 531 for the public sector, and I think 214, something around there. And our annual is 1.7. But we are hampered by a number of challenges, including the weather. Every cabinet, for example, every cabinet secretary has 2 areas within our country, or 2 counties, where every month him and his staff in the ministry go and do tree growing. But now, during the dry spell, we only focuses on the wetland areas and the few forests that we have. So from March range, you'll see a lot of activity. The amount so far allocated for that is 500 million. We don't have money for this, so we want to raise from the money from the international community, people in the environmental sector, and a lot of this money will go into seed production and seed propagation. We're very happy to report that we have a key, very, very important institution called KEFRI, one of our biggest research stations in the region. They do seed production, and so far they have done seed production for 2 billion seeds. And then they hand it over to Kenya Forest Service, to Kenya Prison, to NYS, to Kenya Defense Forces, and I think the Ministry of Education. And each of these have been allocated a certain amount in making sure now they provide the seedlings after the propagation. So we have enough seedlings.
So there are seedlings available?
Available. And out of the 15 billion seedlings, 1.5 billion seedlings, and the 15 billion, 30% must be fruit trees. Okay. And this specifically for the rural population, right, to entice the people in the rural areas
to plant,
and also help them alleviate their livelihood. You know, if you go to a village and you give them fruit trees, it's easier for them to plant the fruit trees than plant the normal trees.
We're about to get into a break, but I know Eric had some math that he was doing.
Around,
yes, 1.5 billion trees would require...
15 billion.
Sorry, 15, yeah, that's okay. 15 billion
How many
trees.
zeros? 9 zeros?
Yes.
15. That's there.
There
That's 15 billion trees. We actually are projecting these on the screen as well.
Okay.
That's 15 billion trees,
yes,
in 10 years.
Yes.
So per year
1.5
is 1.5 billion.
Yes.
Divide by 12 months is equals
125 million.
105 million trees per month.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is per day. We do with what, 31 days or 30 days?
Do 30, just some months have 30.
So that we do, it's a simple one.
Right.
In 30 days, that is 4 million trees, 4.16 million trees. There's no point of a tree. 4,166,667 trees per day.
Absolutely.
This is a very, very ambitious plan, Waziri.
When I was in defense.
And if we look at it now, since January 2023 to December 2023 to January 2024 to December 2024 up to date, the 26th of February, we've done 754 million trees. We are way off target. We should be over 3 million trees.
No, I agree with you. This is a very ambitious program. We are way off target. 2023, you remember there was a very severe drought in our country. This depends on the weather. When the weather is very, very good. I remember one day with all the recruits of Kenya Defense Force, when I was the Minister for Defense, in a forest in Nakuru called Sururu. In one day, we did 700,000 trees. I mean, we grew through 700,000 trees. It's possible, and it's picking up. It's picking up.
We might 700,000 trees.
Yes, in half a day. In fact, half a day, and we mobilized each and every recruit who was in Lanet, mobilize the community. I think it was somewhere in Sarurumas is around Molo area. So, and now we have an app that if, like, for example, Janet and team go and plant trees, they have an opportunity to upload it to that app. Jazamiti. So we are, it's just starting. We are talking to the communities, the public servants, public sector has a key. We are very happy. The banks have a commitment. Part of their commitment is a sustainability report, and I'm sure most of you have seen it. So most banks are doing 10 million, 20 million. We want to tell them to upscale to about 30 million, 40 million a year. It's doable. Our forest cover, our tree cover now as a country is about 12.2%. We want to take it to 30%. Our forest cover is 8.8%. We want to take it to 10%. Let's be very, very optimistic. I mean, climate change is real. We are fencing all our forest. I'll give you a good example. The most visited place in Nairobi and in the region is Karura Forest. Karura Forest, in a month, about 70 to 80,000 people visit. We are unable now to control the crowd. What are we doing? We want to fence Ngong Forest so that the people coming from Karen and all that side go to that forest. We have taken over City Park, try to have fence with partners and allow people to go to create. I did know City Park is where the first vice president of our country is buried, where Gama Pinto is buried there, where the Goan Historical Cemetery are.
Our first vice president is Jaramogi.
No, it is Murumba.
He's
You have not done research.
Second one.
Yeah.
Murumba or
He's the second one.
Murumba or Jaramogi. Let's go to a break. But when we come back, we still have to do some more math, Eric. I want to know, we need about 9.2 million acres.
I think it was 15. Was it 15 million or 9.2?
9.2
million acres
to plant if we're going from an agri-forestry type. And yes, where are we going to get that 9.2? Given that currently our forests are about 14 million acres, right? We'll come and ask Waziri those questions. 15 billion trees achievable? Question mark. Hashtag is Fixing the Nation and TV. We'll be right back. But of course, we're still in conversation with Waziri Aden Duale, of course, Palekwa Environment, Forestry, and of course, matters climate change. And just before the break, we were discussing numbers. And from quick calculations from ChatGPT, to plant 1.5 billion trees, you'd need about 9.26 million acres of land. 9.26 million acres of land. Kenya's current forestry cover is 14 million acres of tree cover. Where are we getting this extra 9.2, given that in forested areas already where trees grow very easily, there's already a fight, people want to encroach on the forest, they want to use that land for agricultural purposes, right? Then there's the fact that even from an agroforestry perspective, many farmers will not want to give up agricultural land to plant trees. They would much rather have that for their cash crops and growing them. Where are we getting 9.26 million acres of land?
Your numbers are correct, but your intention is wrong.
In what sense?
In the sense that who said we're only planting in the forest? We are planting in every part of our country. Do you know the size of Kenya in terms of landmass? About 500,000 plus acres, square kilometer. 60% of this 15 billion is supposed to go to the arid and semi-arid because of two reasons. One, we want to green that part of the country. For example, if you look at Nairobi, let me take an example of Nairobi. The west part of Nairobi is very green. The east part of Nairobi is not green. So we will focus on the east part. So 60% of this 15 billion will go to the arid and semi-arid. And in the arid and semi-arid, we are picking certain particular dryland species, which again have a commercial value in the end. The aloe vera, the acacia. The people in those areas don't know the value of the trees and the environment that those species are used in many parts of the world for pharmaceutical, for food preservation, for perfume making institutions.
Would the water table be able to support that many aloe vera acacia? Because they do grow indigenously there, but sparsely.
No. Those ones that grow in the dry areas, their water consumption they're not the same as the ones we have in the highland areas. So once we plant them, and there's enough land, once we plant them, once we convince them, the communities, and even the riverbeds, Tana River alone, even these floods you are seeing in Tana River when the dams are full, one of the ways to reduce the flooding is to plant bamboo along the rivers, along the farms, and all the way from Embu all down to Lamu and Tana River. We have a program that in terms of restoring, this 15 billion, part of it is restoring the marine ecosystem, the mangrove. So it's not only the forest. In fact, in the forest, we're only picking like Mau Forest, like Abadeas, sections which have been degraded, which have not been taken long. But we are planting everywhere, even in your homes. If your homes don't have trees, we'll ask citizens to plant trees.
So it's been 2 years of this program, Waziri, and we want to ask, because we have very many fixers online who are following the conversation, if you have planted trees over the last 2 years, what kind of trees you've planted and where did you get the seedlings? Because the seedlings should be coming. The primary source is the Kenya Forestry Research Institution, KEFRI, which has been tasked with basically propagating the seedlings.
Which they have done.
And then they're giving them to Kenya Forest Service, is also doing the seedlings, and they come all the way down to your local neighborhood. Have you come across these seedlings? Have you planted them? Waziri is saying that it's not just those trees that we know at eucalyptus trees. It is tree that suits your environment. And that's why KEFRI is important here, because KEFRI does the research. What trees favor this area? But also, the policy is that 30% of the trees will be
of the 15 billion are fruit trees.
Will be fruit trees. So far, we've done 754 million trees.
Yes.
Which means 226 million of those should be fruit trees.
Absolutely.
Is that what we have?
Yes. We can take you around.
Where are these
And we
trees?
can take you around. By the way,
let me examples. Maybe then people from those areas can call in and say, "I've seen this many trees come up."
Every part of the country they can call. Including, I was in Garissa, I was in Tana River, I was in Garissa. We gave the farmers in Garissa 10,000 fruit trees about 3 weeks ago. Let me tell you, there's this notion that government is lying. That is a fallacy. We can defend particularly the scorecard of this government. I'm a senior member of this administration. Ask me anything. We can defend each and every thing that we promise the people of Kenya. Some have challenges, like SHA, like the university education model, but each and everything that is in our manifesto, in 2.5 years, in midterm, we can defend it. There can be propaganda, there can be falsehood, but when the chips are down, we will give numbers.
Things that should be there for people to see.
And I'm telling you, you're asking me, is the 15 billion achievable? If we didn't have these ambitious 15 billion climate change program, mitigation adaptation, maybe today we'll be sitting here and maybe we have planted only 10,000.
Yeah.
So we have done, we should even first thank ourselves. We didn't reach the target. There were challenges, but we did 754 million.
Waziri, I feel like 700 million trees could be very easily seen. It wouldn't be something that we ask questions on. It would be, I see them either in my backyard, either in my home.
I can give you examples where you can go.
All right.
Go to the forest in Makueni, where the president launched this program first time.
Okay.
Please send one of your crew members. Go to Ngong Forest.
Which part of Ngong Forest?
I mean, the Gong Forest.
This one?
Yes, just
Which
here.
actually?
Just
Gong
before, just next to
had
the
trees, so-
yeah, just next to the hill. I mean, there's a place that which was degraded, and I think the president also went. Go to Mau Forest. Go to parts of the dryland parts of Kenya, like Garissa. Go to along. I mean, I can name. You can even ask. We have designated Safaricom a specific area. Banks like KCB have specific areas in our forest, in our ecosystem, where they know the Lari forest, where you can go and say, how many have you planted? We've planted 5 million. So we have a very good monitoring policy.
So where is the fruit,
And that's why
where is the fruit orchard with 226 million fruit trees over the last 2 years?
across the country, in Western Kenya, in Nyanza.
You've given us,
You know,
Gong Forest.
you know, Latif.
You've told us
Latif,
Forest.
it is the burden of confirming where the fruit trees are. I told you we have a monitoring. If you want to challenge me on that, bring Kenyans. I'll go and ask them. Media. One of the role of the media is oversight. Am I right?
By asking the question.
So you cannot. You cannot.
Asking the question.
Yes.
That's the job
No.
of the media.
No. Not asking.
So when
Asking the question is the first thing. Going to the ground, which you have done very well in some places, is a media to go and find. I am telling you, out of the 15 billion, 30% are fruit trees. If Nation Media Group says we want to give us or allocate us a certain part of the country for us to grow trees, we want to do 10 million. We will tell you where you'll get the seedlings. If you ask for fruit trees, we'll tell you where to get it, how much to pay for it. And we will, we have foresters in each and every county and sub-county in our country. So today, if you are going to plant, for example, the four of us, with other people, citizens, the first people who will be on the ground to mobilize will be the Ngao, the Provincial Administration, plus our forest team.
What measures are in place to ensure transparency? You've spoken to it a bit, but again, when it comes to building trust, ensuring the trust of Kenyans in the different projects that are brought up, people want to see accountability and transparency. What measures are you putting in place? How can people keep on top of transparency in this project?
And I think if you go to that app, you will even see it has a monitoring and an evaluation section, I think.
Yeah, I'm on the app.
But from a ministry point of view, it's my business as the head of that ministry to make sure that every coin and everything that we do in that ministry is done transparently. I'm answerable to the people of Kenya through their representatives in parliament. I'm answerable to environmentalists and people who are in that space. And at the end of, and I'm answerable to cabinet. I mean, if I cannot deliver on my mandate, whether it's NEMA, whether it's a 15 billion, whether it is the climate action, then I should not have been there.
You should not be in office.
I should not be in office.
We have the app. I actually downloaded this app immediately the program was launched, and your predecessor said there's an app. I downloaded the app. I've been having the app. We can even project it on the screen.
And there are many.
Here's the app.
Yes, I'm saying, and there are many people who have planted trees, even organizations, who have not uploaded on the app. And we have a feeling, Kefri has a feeling that we need to do more sensitization, because if everybody uploads, because it has certain parameters, you plant, you take a photo, and you upload it. You can't just put numbers. So we believe there are a number of other Kenyans, organizations, and individuals who have planted trees or grown trees, but they have not uploaded on the system.
Okay,
so,
because the system is telling us that the total trees planted is 580,593,280.
Yes.
Which is short of the figure that you're giving.
That's why I'm telling you.
So the app is not up to date.
That's why yes, it's not, because there are people who are planting trees individually, organization, who have not yet acquainted themselves with the app, and that's why.
But the number you have, Waziri, is from people who have planted trees. That's how you know it's 700.
Absolutely, because we have a 15 billion secretariat
in the
ministry. that don't do anything else from morning to evening. They work with the non-state actors. They work with ministries. They are on the ground. If today, for example, the Ministry of Public Service or the Ministry of Agriculture is planting, somebody from that secretariat is there and physically will count.
And they'll count.
Yes,
So why then is there a discrepancy in the numbers?
No.
If it's the same people who are collecting data on the ground and reporting to your office and uploading it on the app, the number that has been brought to your office of 754 million is not the number that they've put on the app. Because on the app they've put 500 million.
If you go back, before I went to the ministry, the number on the app even was very little. It's about 200 million.
But there's a discrepancy, is what you're saying.
No, I mean, I'm not saying the app is alpha and the omega on this 15 billion. The app was created by one of our institutions to make it easier. And how many people have
your people have access to the app.
But our secretariat, our secretariat will not upload on your behalf, but our secretariat will go to the ground. They can account for government. They will account for the non-state actors. Because the non-state actors also report. We are with them. Our foresters are there. The secretariat are there. And that's why I'm telling you, slowly we are trying to educate across the citizens on the availability and the usage of the app. Every app you have in the world, or even here, the numbers don't correlate. I mean, it takes time.
But why? The reason we're asking, we're being so, Waziri, it's because of that accountability. You said that we have a waterproof, a tight accountability mechanism. This app is run by your ministry. The counting and the verification on the ground is done by your ministry. The reports that come to your office as the cabinet secretary, because you are not the one who's going around, are done by the people in your ministry. The people in your ministry, Waziri, are not updating the app. How do we know the people in your ministry, Waziri, are giving you the right numbers?
No. The app is domiciled. Get me right. The app is domiciled in Kefri.
Which is under your ministry?
Yeah, under my ministry.
Right.
But the mandate of the 15 billion tree growing is a function of the 15 billion secretariat. Let's differentiate it.
Is it under your ministry?
It's under my ministry.
Okay.
The role of Kefri in the 15 billion is to make sure that they provide the required seeds, which they have done. In fact, they have surpassed.
Will any of these 15 billion trees be sold as carbon credits?
That is now where we are heading as a country. Carbon credit comes in different forms. It can be the forest, it can be in the carbon credits from the soil, mangroves and all that. So carbon credit is a global issue, is a global matter. And the last time I was in Baku, in Azerbaijan, COP29, we lost on many things that we wanted as an African, because we went as Africa. Mainly because of the new administration in the US, which was anti-climate. But there's one thing that we secured. We secured Article 6 of the Paris Agreement on carbon credits. And that gave Kenya now to open up that space, both for investors and for governments to do, other governments to do bilateral with us on carbon credits. And before we even sell or trade in carbon market, then we must have the requisite legal framework. So we amended the Climate Act 2023 to provide for the carbon trading mechanism. We have done all the regulations.
Right.
And we are remaining with the 2 regulations. We have designated NEMA as the person who keeps a register. We have formed a multi-sectoral team. You know, carbon credit can come from energy, from transport, from all sectors. Right. And I think today I am proud to say that Kenya is a leader in carbon credit. We have nearly all the 80% of the required legal infrastructure in place. So right now we are seeing so many companies And all this is because companies and countries that have a high green gas emission can come and do business with us on carbon credit and do the offsetting.
Are the trees for us and our environment and our, afforestation measures, or for the carbon? Is it a business venture, in short?
It's a serious business venture. And in fact, if you look at the regulation that I have passed, the biggest beneficiary is the community. 40% of any carbon credit project done in any part of our country must go to the community. Before, I think we had about 200 companies. One of them is one called Northern Rangeland Trust that works in the pastoral areas. And they're mainly involved in soil carbon credit. They were using it voluntarily. But since we put the law in place, now we have a compliance system. So communities will get, and governments will get, and the carbon credit projects will, owners will get their bit.
My friend Mohammed, who's in Ijara, I think you may know him. He knows you.
No, I don't know all Mohammeds, but I know.
He knows you very. If I told you who he is,
because of Ijara, he must. Mohammed must come from Ijara.
He knows you very well. How does he know how he benefits from carbon credits? If he said, "Yeah, I'm planting trees," I want to know how to benefit from carbon.
He must plant enough trees that turn into a carbon sink.
How many is enough trees?
Who does he talk to? Does he go to the chief?
No. He doesn't need to. If he has land, he plants trees.
Anataka pesa
and he's next to Boni Forest, so he can.
Exactly. Anataka pesa mfukoni. Mohammed anataka pesa kwa mfuko. How does
No. You know, Latif, carbon market framework and trading is a very complex thing. It's not instant coffee. You know, you have to plan, you have to register, you have to, NEMA has to do evaluation. So it's a very technical thing.
So the question that I'm asking you very indirectly, now let me just put it directly, is your ministry coming up with a program to educate us on carbon credit?
Oh yeah, we have done with Parliament. Now like Mohammed now will benefit because Mohammed, Ijara or Garissa County, I think 40% of Boni Forest is in that county. So anybody who's coming to use the carbon sink of Boni Forest, one of our equivalent of the Amazon forest, the 40% of anybody coming to do a project on the side of Ijara will not benefit Mohammed directly, but it will benefit the community. And the community will benefit in terms of healthcare, education, small, medium enterprise, businesses. So that's why. So Mohammed now, because Ijara is next to Boni Forest, and 40% of, I think, I'm not sure of the percentage, is in Garissa County, Ijara, then anybody wants to do carbon trading using that forest, the community will benefit.
Let's take a break. It's 9:01, and we're having a conversation with Aden Duale, who is the Cabinet Secretary for Environment, Climate Change and Forestry. We are talking about the program, an ambitious program to basically reforest our country. 15 billion trees in 10 years. He says it's ambitious. We've gone so far, but what are the benefits of this and how do we account for this? How do we move it going forward? In the next hour, we'll also talk about the lifting of the logging ban, whether that is having an impact on this program of ours and how long this is going to be left open. Protection of our forests. There have been very many questions about people encroaching into our forests. Karura is one of them. Explain the cutting of trees in Karura. Ololua Forest was a question that you asked in Parliament, and we have the response that you gave to that. We will play it. Keep it here for that. We'll be back shortly.
In the first 30 days, working with the Minister for Lands and other government agencies, a number of titles, including and belonging to big people in government, some of them members of Parliament, will be revoked. I will revoke those, and I am ready to bear the consequences, particularly for the one on Ololua. I have been briefed. I have listened to experts, and I have seen it's deliberate. In the last 2 years, there are people who got illegal title deeds, and I think it will be the first place I will visit, and also with the Committee on Environment, and I hope the chair is a member of this committee, my chair. We will visit, and please, Mr. Speaker, some of your members might be casualties.
Encroachment of forests, and that was candidate nominee for the slot of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry, Aden Duale, in the confirmation hearing, where he promised in 30 days, well, in your case it's Quran, heavy, in 30 days, I'm revoking titles, I have been briefed, I have received intelligence, I can see there are people who encroached here, they have illegal title deeds, and we're revoking them. Did it happen?
I mean, I don't revoke titles. There's another minister who revokes. But we have stopped. We have stopped that land. I have been there.
What do you mean you have stopped? Stopped what?
I mean, there are people who are constructing. We've stopped them. We have put our Kenya Forest guards there now. If you go there, I have written a detailed report to the Ministry of Lands. And the members of parliament who are in that list, some of them who come from the neighboring constituency, and I'm sure they are watching me, and they will never touch it.
So what's the state right now?
The state is revoking a title is a process. Maybe some people have gone to court, so we respect the rule of law, but ultimately they will not take occupation. Nobody will take occupation of any land that belongs to the forest. The only occupation allowed under law is what is called a special user license given by KFS through its board. Okay. So Latif, I did my bit.
So what have you found out so far? How did this happen? How did this encroachment happen?
I think...
how did the titles
let me own it.
Out?
Even the people who are in my ministry did not play did not do their work. Yeah,
well, clearly,
yeah.
They sanctioned the annexation of forest land.
Yeah.
So what action have you taken against them?
I mean, some of them are not in office. This was done many years. There are many things that were done irregularly, even in Karura, and that I am now reversing it. Yeah.
And speaking of Karura, I think we need to also honor.
I mean, even there were issues on conflict of interest. Okay. There are people who run business in Karura, and when they were chairing the board of KFS, that itself is a serious integrity issue. But we are reversing. I mean, I'm happy to say that the Forest Management and Coordination Act and its subsequent regulations really protects our forest ecosystem. So it needs implementation. It needs the law to be followed.
Right. Let's honor some people in the comment section, and thank you for all of you who are participating in this conversation and ask some questions. Duncan Kioi, the Waziri is talking about planting 15 billion trees, yet in Karura, trees are being cut down. How does that add up? If we truly care about climate change and conservation, that must come first. There's also people asking about whether you're going to speak on plastic and polythene bags. That is Davis and a few other fixers who are with us on the YouTube platform. Thank you so much. Please keep those questions coming in. Let's speak to that concern around Karura, Waziri, before we move to
Karura. I think you need to bring the video. I visited Karura. I mean, I expected this team fixing the nation should have looked more for my video. Karura Forest ideally is supposed to be an indigenous forest, not a commercial forest. So there are about 30% of the trees in Karura are commercial forest nature. And why do we say Karura should be indigenous? Indigenous trees are exotic. They attract birds. They attract other animals. They attract flora and fauna and flora. So 30% of these commercial trees, there was a plan which both the Friends of Karura, the people who run with KFS, and in all our forests called Forest Management Sustainable Plan. So they had every 5 years, they're supposed to remove this percentage of the commercial, 30% commercial nature, and replace it with the indigenous. But in 2015, a moratorium was placed on all our forests for reasons I cannot explain. And when President William Ruto came into being, that moratorium really affected the timber industry in our country. The people closed. They had to go and buy from Congo, from Tanzania. And the trees, in terms of age, the commercial trees, we know we have about 150,000 hectares of commercial trees in Kenya. 150,000 hectares is a lot. So the 30% in Karura, there was a plan, written plan, existing. I should have come with it. So after the moratorium was lifted, the Friends of Karura, which now is led by a very respectable judge of the Court of Appeal, agreed that now we must start what we agreed in paper. We remove 5,000 trees every year. So they started cutting the commercial section and started planting. But somebody, you know, with Kenyan fake news and propaganda and negativity, somebody said part of Karura is being sold, a hotel is being built. We try to dispense that fake news through our Twitters. And one Saturday morning, I walked with the Friends of Karura and the judge, and we saw it. So that was just fake news. And we will make sure that in 5 years or in 10 years, we turn Karura into an indigenous trees. We're bringing birds, we're bringing other animals. It's supposed to be an indigenous tree where people walk. And that was even the earlier intention of people like Wangari Maathai.
So the program now...
But we have other places where encroachment takes place. You know, animals are brought for grazing, for fattening. Farming is being done, even though now the law allows to a certain degree how much you can farm in a forest. But I want to thank this administration. Since 2002, this is the only administration that employed close to 3,000 forest rangers. Now we have enough, at least enough, men and women who are in uniform who can protect our forest.
All right. I saw an Instagram ad a few days ago for, I won't name the company, but they were basically advertising luxury tented villas in Karura Forest. That's why when you see trees being cut down with no information being given to you prior, and then you see ads going on for someone saying, yes, we're going to do luxury tented villas in the heart of Karura Forest. You do 1+1, it leads you to, yes, trees are being cut down to create space for something commercial.
No, but the law provides for ecotourism in our forests. Not building, but you can do tents.
Okay.
Ecotourism in some special cases, and must be done through due diligence.
Special cases such as?
You know, particular area. We have in some forests like Abadeas, okay? But I have not heard about Karura.
Okay.
Karura, and it will go through the board, it will come to my office, and that's why...
I'll share the ad, but the fact that they're already placing an
please
ad
share, but I can tell you...
already tells you they either have gone through regulation or they're acting illegally, right? It's either or.
Nobody can do illegally. Even in Karura, you have a restaurant. In Karura, we have a space where you can go do events. Charged. I mean, there are many heads of state and government who went to Karura, particularly during UNEA, United Nations Environmental Program, based in Kenya and the only one in South. So tented ecotourism in our forest is allowed in law, but there must be certain discretion.
That comes.
Yes, that's why you remember there was somebody who was putting up a golf course near Ngong, and I had to cancel it, which was done before. And so there are areas where we will. Okay. It is where we feel this is possible, and at the same time can protect our ecosystem, forest.